In the day's other headlines, the U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to decide quickly on whether to hear the case over former President Trump's claim of legal immunity. That came after special counsel Jack Smith made the request, saying in a filing, quote, "It is of imperative public importance that claims of immunity be resolved and that trial proceed as promptly as possible." Mr. Trump argues he is shielded from charges of trying to subvert the 2020 election results. The court ordered Trump's lawyers to respond by December 20th. Smith hopes to keep a March 4th trial date. Also today, Mr. Trump opted not to return to the witness stand in the civil fraud trial against his family business. He'd already testified in his own defense in early November. The trial is set to wrap up in a few days with a decision expected in January. Trial began today on how much Rudy Giuliani must pay two Georgia election workers for falsely accusing them of fraud in the 2020 election. Giuliani arrived at the federal courthouse in Washington this morning. The former Trump lawyer has already been found liable for defamation. Plaintiffs Wandrea Shea Moss and her mother, Ruby Freeman, were threatened and harassed over false claims by Trump allies. On Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky appealed today for an end to the stalemate over American aid. He spoke in Washington, where a battle over border security and immigration policy has blocked action on $61 billion.
The whole world is watching us, observing what destiny other free nation could face to live freely or to be subjugated. You can count on Ukraine, and we hope just as much to be able to count on you.
Zelensky will make his case directly to President Biden and members of Congress tomorrow. In the meantime, in Kyiv, debris from Russian missiles destroyed homes and left craters in a pre-dawn attack. It was part of a stepped-up aerial assault as winter sets in. The jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is missing. A spokeswoman says he's been transferred to a special security prison and has not been in touch for 6 days. The spokeswoman posted today on social media saying, quote, "Where they have taken him, they refuse to say." Local elections in Hong Kong have wiped away the last vestige of democratic rule. Mainland China loyalists dominated Sunday's races after opposition candidates were barred. Only about 27% of 4.3 million registered voters cast ballots. That is down from 71% in the last such elections in 2019. The United Nations COP28 climate summit neared its climax today in Dubai as criticism mounted that a draft agreement is too weak. The proposal sidestepped calls to phase out fossil fuels. The European Commissioner for Climate Action was among those voicing frustration.
The text as it now stands is disappointing. It is lengthy. We're still looking into all the various elements. And yes, there are a couple of good things in there, but overall, it is clearly insufficient and not adequate to addressing the problem.
The summit is scheduled to end tomorrow. Back in this country, a pregnant woman has left Texas for an abortion after challenging the state's near-total ban. Kate Cox says her fetus has a likely fatal condition that could jeopardize her own health. She's now 20 weeks pregnant, and her lawyer said today she can't wait longer for the state Supreme Court to rule. Her legal challenge will continue. And on Wall Street, stocks advanced to open the week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 157 points to close at 36,405. The Nasdaq rose 28 points. The S&P 500 added 18. Still to come on the News Hour, ethnic minorities in Russia are disproportionately conscripted for the war in Ukraine. Tamara Keith and Amy Walter break down the latest political headlines. Director Baz Luhrmann on remaking one of his movies into a TV miniseries, plus much more.
This is the PBS News Hour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.